Welcome everyone to today's webinar, The Next Era of Healthcare IT, a Human-Centered Approach. On behalf of Becker's Healthcare, thank you for joining us today. Before we begin, I'm going to walk through a few quick housekeeping instructions. First, we'll begin today's webinar with a presentation and have time at the end of the hour for a question and answer session. You can submit any questions you have throughout the webinar by typing them into the Q&A box you see on your screen. Today's session is being recorded and will be made available after the event. You can use the same link used to log into today's webinar to access that recording. Finally, if at any time you don't see your slides moving or have trouble with the audio, try refreshing your browser. You can also submit any technical questions into the Q&A box. We are here to help. With that, I am pleased to welcome today's speakers. We have Charlie Smith. She is the Director of Portfolio and Value Management for the Large Hospital and Health Systems Business Unit at Allscripts, and Jenna Date, the Chief Experience Officer for the Hospitals and Health Systems Business Unit at Allscripts. Charlie and Jenna, thank you for being here today. Charlie, I'll now turn the floor over to you.
Of course, thank you. I'm going to speed through a couple of these slides here. So, hi everyone, it's a pleasure to be here today, and we are excited for the opportunity to speak with you about the importance of a platform of health and applying human-centered design principles when creating those solutions that our healthcare providers and patients engage with every day. So when we talk about a platform of health at Allscripts, we are referring to an evolution of the traditional EHR. So moving from electronic order entry and documentation systems to a platform of health that digitally transforms how we are providing care. And the platform of health should be a composition of fully integrated solutions that serve all venues of care and provide hospitals and health systems with a single harmonized patient record. And it should also be cloud native to allow for accessibility, scalability, and the ability to deliver new features and services quickly with no downtimes. And here at Allscripts, we are designing that platform of health using an organic growth mindset with a focus on impact and transformation by learning, finding lessons and inspiration in the successes of others, really listening to feedback and embracing challenges to ensure that we're continually growing. And by coupling that approach with the human experience, we are ensuring our platform of health is innovative and intuitive for our care providers. So at Allscripts, we break the platform of health down into 6 fundamental components: consumer engagement, interoperability, care coordination, operational outcomes, analytics, and intelligent interventions. And we will talk about why those components are important to hospitals and health systems, the providers, and patients who are receiving care. So let's start with consumer engagement. Research shows that the financial burden and negative human toll that missed appointments inflict on our society is to the tune of 22 million missed appointments annually and over 150 billion in lost revenue. And that's a big chunk of change that healthcare organizations need a way to retain. They need to ensure that they are proactively engaging patients and helping them make it to scheduled appointments, while at the same time reducing the overhead of transportation costs. And from a patient's perspective, you know, we all want to be in control of our own information and our own care so that when we do see a new provider, we have access to all of our medical records at the time of care. So the consumer engagement application should be mobile with a seamless experience for the patient. Care coordination and interoperability are also very important components of a platform of health. Research shows that 44% of medical error deaths are preventable, and $30 billion per year is wasted in healthcare due to the lack of availability of patient information. And the key word here really is preventable. You know, healthcare organizations need to ensure seamless coordination of care to improve patient outcomes. And from a patient perspective, we all have stories of arriving to an emergency room or even just seeing a new doctor in a clinic we visited multiple times where important information was missed or we were asked the same questions 10 different times. If a provider or organizations want to keep its patients, one of the best ways is to give them peace of mind that their healthcare data is up to date and accessible to any care provider they see. Analytics is also an integral part of the platform of health. Recent studies show that 90% of the nation's $3.8 trillion in annual healthcare costs are for people with chronic and mental health conditions, which means that preventative care and or managing symptoms when prevention is not possible can significantly reduce these costs. Analytics allows us to analyze what happens to patients in real time and characterize the health condition of individual patients. This real-time data is really invaluable for predicting events such as hospitalization, readmissions, and both of which account for the large majority of that $3.8 trillion spend. And really, think of it from a patient perspective. We all want a personalized treatment experience with short wait times at a reasonable cost, and we want to be engaged sooner and enrolled in preventative care programs that are tailored for our health needs so that we can stay healthy and out of the ER. And then next, in order for hospitals and health systems to make a dent in the astronomical cost of healthcare, they need solutions to improve their operational outcomes and reduce the administrative complexity, which causes $265 billion in billing and coding waste annually. Healthcare CFOs and revenue cycle stakeholders know that the revenue cycle process has to be streamlined, and they are looking for a solution with both digital access for patients so that they understand costs and act on responsibilities, and one with analytics to generate insight that aligns providers' performance with payer incentives. They need to know that the solution will help them improve their bottom line. And also, patients are now demanding the same level of customer experience they see in other industries, such as retail. We are all now very accustomed to Amazon with upfront pricing, free shipping, and easy returns. And this concept needs to apply to healthcare, too. Patients want simple, intuitive processes for receiving healthcare services, and it needs to include price transparency, seamless scheduling, and easy bill pay. And last but definitely not least, the CMIOs and providers have clinical outcomes at the top of their mind when providing care. I know you have all heard about physician burnout and cognitive burden over the last couple of years, and sadly, the numbers are very real. And the pandemic has pushed cognitive burden and physician burnout to an all-time high. Recent studies show that 45% of physicians experience burnout, which costs $6.3 billion per year, and 54% of doctors say that EHRs decrease their professional satisfaction. So more than half of the physicians out there hate their EHRs, and the onus is upon us as vendors to fix that. They want a system that is intuitive, simple, and provides information at their fingertips so that they can get back to the bedside with their patients and away from their desktops. And by the same token, patients want a provider who is engaged and informed about their health needs. They want their provider to have access to clinical protocols and guidelines so they can get the most current care. And at the center of all of this is human-centered design. It is extremely important that all of these solutions are designed using a human-centered approach to ensure a seamless, intuitive user experience for both providers and for patients. So as I mentioned earlier, a platform of health is an evolution of the traditional EHR. The industry has moved from paper to electronic health records, and now we are digitally transforming the way healthcare is delivered. And as we continue to evolve to meet the demands of changing healthcare paradigm, we have to look to the future of delivery, which is cloud-based platforms. And Allscripts has chosen Microsoft as our partner for digital transformation and moving our Sunrise platform to Azure. This extended partnership with Microsoft will help us further enable our ability to evolve and innovate with a focus on delivering simpler technology that is more purposeful in design and supportive of patient care. And it's going to enable a safer, faster, and more cost-efficient suite of technologies than ever before. So moving to a cloud-native platform will also help address 5 key industry drivers or concepts that are on our healthcare executive minds today, starting with cybersecurity. Healthcare organizations are under constant attack, and CIOs are losing sleep about this every night. 62% of businesses experience cyber attacks every year, and 4.1 billion records were exposed in the first half of 2019 alone, and it's gotten progressively worse over the last couple of years. The majority of these breaches are through malware and phishing, and hospital and health systems need to know that their investments in a platform is protected and be assured that their clinical and financial data is secure. And so for Allscripts, that's where Microsoft comes into play. Microsoft has invested over $1 billion in cybersecurity. Azure's threat mitigation and security controls protect our clients' information from unauthorized access and attack, and applies strict traffic control, constant threat and vulnerability analysis, and a set of tools that ensures only authorized users have access to the network. The next concept is artificial intelligence. And in simple terms, artificial intelligence is the development of software that thinks and works like humans. And we all use artificial intelligence every single day with technology like voice recognition in Siri or Alexa, face recognition on your iPhone, self-driving cars like Tesla, and even Netflix and Amazon, who use predictive technology to offer recommendations based on our viewing or buying history. And healthcare is no exception. In December of 2019, an artificial intelligence platform picked up a cluster of unusual pneumonia cases in Wuhan, China, which has evolved into today's pandemic. And in general, artificial intelligence uses a vast quantities of data to produce powerful predictions about the future, and it's time that we start aggressively applying that to healthcare. So if you think about it, EHRs are essentially enormous clinical and financial data repositories, and with artificial intelligence embedded in the platform, the possibilities are endless. Providers will be able to improve, at the minimum, response time to critical lab and medication alerts, pinpoint bed availability to improve patient flow, and analyze disease patterns for quicker and more efficient care. Another reason for moving to cloud-native solutions is the concept of a digital front door. And a digital front door is all about consumer engagement and refers to the digital or virtual access points for care services. Hospitals and health systems must now think beyond the traditional brick and mortar 4 walls of the facility and identify ways that patients can digitally interact with providers and care services. And COVID-19 has forced providers and health IT vendors to innovate and accelerate their digital front door and remote access to care services with technologies like virtual visits, online self-service tools like self-scheduling and secure messaging, virtual triage for emergency services, and chatbots using artificial intelligence to do a preliminary symptom check in order to direct patients to the appropriate care venue. Cloud-native applications also ensure the connection to the Internet of Things. And in simple terms, the Internet of Things refers to things that are embedded with sensors for the purpose of connecting to and exchanging data over the Internet. And it may seem like a complex or foreign term, but we really do use the Internet of Things every day. And a good example of this is the concept of a smart home. We all have devices that can be controlled over the Internet, things like light fixtures that turn on and off with a voice command, thermostats that learn your heating and cooling habits, home security systems and video doorbells that are controlled and accessed anywhere at any time. And this concept is also applicable to healthcare with a wide variety of wearables, including fitness trackers, blood glucose monitors, heart monitors, and sleep trackers. And these healthcare wearables are becoming more intelligent and embedded with algorithms that are capable of early detection and potential signs of infectious diseases. And it's increasingly important that that data is accessible to both the patients and their care providers, which means that we need to have a platform that is capable of not only connecting to these devices we know of today, but also those devices that will be on the market tomorrow. So we need to be able to consume that patient data and present it in a way that is intuitive and appropriate for the care of the patient. And finally, the platform of health should be embedded with guided clinical intervention tools. Physician shortages are at an all-time high, and the most impacted disciplines are primary care and radiologists. Artificial intelligence-enabled guided clinical intervention has already started to complement and augment radiologists from both a productivity and diagnostic standpoint by offering intelligent scheduling, imaging protocols, and dose reductions. Teleradiology also offers a way for remote and underserved areas to access radiologists and collaborate with larger multidisciplinary teams that they typically wouldn't have access to. So as you can see, the evolution and digital transformation of a traditional EHR into a platform of health will definitely take some thought on how we design and approach usability. So with that, I will hand it over to Jenna Dates, Allscripts Chief Experience Officer, to elaborate on the importance of human-centered design and Allscripts' approach to usability. So Jenna, it's all yours.
Oh, thank you so much, Charlie. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much, Beckers and Molly, for having us. And it's a great opportunity to be able to share our incredible work that we're doing at Allscripts. And thanks for the overview of the platform of health. I think it really ties directly into what we're trying to do on the human-centered design side. So human-centered design, right? I think the big question here is why? Why are we doing this? Basically, it's the concept that experiences in the world really are not awesome. We've seen this in design for decades, and if you think about it, everything that a human uses currently today has been designed, whether it's poorly or well. Both of those concepts are out there. So when you open a door, you can realize that that door handle is designed well for your hand. When a physician uses a piece of technology, then that is also designed. When a child experiences a hospital for the first time, that is well designed or not. And we are here to basically react to the fact that these experiences can get better for the humans that are involved in the process. So I was brought on about 6 months ago by Lisa Corey, our champion and leader, to really start to think more about the synergy between education, design, and innovation. And in our team, we serve as a catalyst of change and growth to drive innovative product design and development, educational excellence, and brilliant futures. And how we do that is focusing on empathy for the humans that are using our products, also for our team and each other, and for the communities that we serve. And we really are focusing now on joy and delight in everyone's daily lives and looking for those synergies between the three. So what is human-centered design? So I'd love to talk to you a little bit about that, because this concept is new in healthcare in a lot of ways. We've been doing human-centered design at Allscripts for about a decade now. And what I love about this new initiative is to bubble it up and bring it to the front of the process. So we're looking at it from a strategic perspective, from an organizational perspective, and also from a product and services perspective. It's a process and approach that basically has these 5 steps. The concept is to set some scope, do some research, synthesize those findings, ideate new features, and then rapidly and iteratively prototype and test with the humans that are actually using the product to come to a solid piece of technology or service at the end of the day. It creates the ability to impact existing processes and methods, and it results in a dramatically faster and more efficient process. We really want to ensure that we're building the quote-unquote right thing. So many times in technology, out in the modern world as well as in healthcare, there are technology groups that say, hey, wow, this is something really cool. And then we go out and find a use case to fill that cool thing. And what we're attempting to say with human-centered design is, hey, let's start designing for the need rather than designing to fit a cool thing. So we really need more people in healthcare in general to do 4 things. The first is to listen and empathize. All of the work that we do with our physicians in co-create sessions, and also to be able to listen to their voice. We do a lot of job shadowing. We spend a lot of time listening and empathizing with their situations and then designing for that. We're also interested in folks that want to understand human needs. The concept of a human need is really focusing on the people that are using the platform. And that goes from everyone from a patient to a physician, a provider of any kind, and even to the CMIOs that are making the buying decisions. We believe at Allscripts that data is there to support those needs. We also need folks to educate the organization. So as designers, we spend an awful lot of time evangelizing our wares and our services and our assets to be able to innovate and produce more quickly with rich quality. So that concept of being able to meet a deadline, it also has to focus on the quality of our work. And we are also here to convince those colleagues and partners and bosses that these problems are worth solving. You know, humans have a tough time with change, regardless of where you are in any organization or even in your family, right? With COVID, we've seen an awful lot of change. And how do we help people understand that these needs are worth solving for? So I feel like if you are here on this call and you're listening to this, you are now one of those people that are needed out there in the world. But, you know, even as one of these organizations, you know, we're sitting here as IT professionals, we have to start understanding that just by being us, we suffer from expert blindness. So we are in these IT organizations. Some of us have been in these organizations for decades, and we have been drinking the Kool-Aid of what it means to build cool stuff. What's really important in this space is to get back to the people that use our product. So human-centered design doesn't just suggest, hey, by the way, you might want to go talk with a physician or a nurse about their experience. It actually insists that process comes first before you actually start building something. So a lot of folks have heard the word not only human-centered design, but also the word design thinking. And I just wanted to clear up what that means. So design thinking is actually synonymous with human-centered design. It's just different companies call it different things. But the concept of design thinking or human-centered design, it's a series of methodologies and practices that can solve a problem or for a need, no matter how big or small. So in my world, I've worked with domestic violence victims and survivors, intellectual disability, mental and behavioral health. I've also worked on pathology products and also pharmaceutical robotics. So everything that is in our world can be designed using these series of methodologies. These processes depend on divergent thinking. So we're really looking for the hidden or intrinsic needs rather than the asked for answer. An example of this is kind of interesting, you know, if I were to say to somebody on the line, hey, so what are you going to do tonight? And they say, well, you know, it's COVID, so we're going to hang out with the kids, maybe go for a walk, and then we're going to grab a bite to eat in our kitchen, and then we might watch part of a movie, have some ice cream, and go to bed. So if I were to actually come and join you tonight, and instead of just asking you the question, I can imagine that the experience might be very different. So, you know, maybe there was a meeting that ran late, or maybe one of your children had an emergency. And then all of a sudden things change and your mother-in-law is meeting you somewhere to be able to take care of that child. And then you get home late. So looking for those intrinsic needs to be able to help people gain this sense of safety in their own space, and also looking for those needs that they're not even requesting. Those are the ones that we're really shopping after when we apply design thinking or human-centered design to our work. Finally, our work is iterative. So, I put those 5 little concentric circles in a line, and that feels really good and feels like it's orderly and it has a process and it's very clean and neat, and it's actually not. We go round and round and back and forth every project to be able to make the product right for the humans that are using it. And that could mean starting off with some research and then doing a little bit of iterative testing based on what we find. And then it's creating a new vision for a future. And then, oh, wait a minute, we need 3 more because that was interesting to senior leaders, and it was also interesting to us as humans that are working on the project. Or maybe there's a new market finding that comes out, so we have to go back to research. So this concept of going from research, analysis, design, implementation, evaluation, it's really very cyclical and also a constant surprise and a happy challenge to be able to come to something new. What we do know is that design thinking and human-centered design is a proven approach. It's been around since the 60s. It actually got coined at my alma mater, Carnegie Mellon University, in 1969 by Newell Simon when he wrote an article about human behavior and processes and computers. So it's used to create results that are viable for business, technically feasible, and desired by the people who use them. Please notice that in this slide, I'm not talking about one group of people going off and designing something new. I'm talking about collaboration between business, technology, design, psychology, market, product. Everyone needs to get to the table at the same time, have the conversation, make the big decisions about which direction they're going to go, and then go after that based on research and data. This is not one person in a room designing something new. Nor is this one person in a room designing something blue. So notice that these collaborations include designers, technologists, and product people. And those designers are at the front of the process. They're doing strategic work, doing research, making sure that we're going after the right thing, just as much as product and tech are doing too. So to put design at the end of the process costs a lot more. And that's what this slide is talking about. So human-centered design benefits. On the right-hand side, you'll see some results. What I love about this, at the bottom where it says facts, usability, human-centered design, it's demonstrated cost reductions in the product development cycle, 33 to 50%. These statistics are old. They date back to the 80s, which, for some folks on the call, you might have just been a little one back then. That's hard to believe too, and so wonderful. But what I really love about these old facts is that they still ring true. Back then, they were estimating 33 to 50%. Now we are estimating 300% return on investment for a company that starts to move towards human-centered design. And that's what I get excited about. That little statistic came from a paper in McKinsey. So cost changes are a really big deal in healthcare, just like every other piece of technology that's out there. At the bottom of this graph, we say, okay, we're going to involve human-centered design at the requirements writing phase, right? And I believe that's the hot dog on the street. It's super cheap, really easy. We can do this iterative proof of concept process using very easy, quick, and dirty tools, and we can get to a final answer more quickly. If we wait to include design in the post-launch, that's the steak dinner. And I could tell you some pretty hard stories from outside in the world in my previous experience working with other companies as a consultant, and also in publicly traded companies like this one, and small boutique firms that I've worked with and started, is that every single one of them, if you leave design till the end, that's going to be the most expensive and will cost your company millions. And we don't want that to happen. So we're going to focus on solving things quickly and early in the process. So what kind of results? And here you go. You've got that ROI more than 300%. This is business acumen, right? This is the concept that we can actually start to apply business models to and KPIs to our human-centered design at Allscripts. We really want to start looking at our KPIs differently, start to help us understand how we can solve for challenges like Charlie was talking about with cognitive load with physicians. We also see a huge uptick in ease of use and how people feel cared for and safe in products and technology and services that focus on the human that are using them. So Temkin Group reported clients 6 times more likely to buy, and really the best practice ranking for 2015 had Sunrise with the highest score. So a type of scoring that we use in human-centered design to be, and a lot of folks probably know this in healthcare, is something called SUS scores. So these usability scores are instrumental in helping us discover if our products are good or not, and how to make them better. And the usability scores can test any part of a system or can test a system as a whole and can give us rankings. So we're using those now, and that's how these scores came to be. How this ties into growth mindset. So if we're starting to think about human-centered design, we are also thinking about implementing that from an internal point in our company. And right now we are doing organizational design and implementing a new innovative mindset. So if you think about the concept of fixed mindset and growth mindset, fixed mindset on the right-hand side is fairly limiting, right? So I'm either good at it or I'm not. I have failure is the limit of my abilities. Feedback is personal. I stick with what I know. And what we're attempting to do on an organizational level is to move our entire company to something new, which is growth mindset. Basically, we're calling that the freedom stance. So I can learn to do anything I want. Failure is an opportunity to grow. Feedback is constructive. And I really like to try new things. So there's a link here that I'd love for you to have a look at if you're interested in this. But the idea here is to say curiosity and creativity can get us everywhere. And if we practice that with empathy and agility and really focus on the feedback that we're getting, not only from our users and the people that use our products, but also from our internal personalities and friends and colleagues and bosses and mentors and HR and finance, then we can really start to shift the industry. And from my perspective, that's our job. That's everyone's job on this call, to start thinking about healthcare differently. When I think about my personal mission and how I got to Allscripts, my personal mission for about 20 years has been designing and leading for a compassionate world. And healthcare has always had a strain throughout my career. And what I get really excited about is this ability for everyone on this call to help our clients, communities, and employees and products thrive. And to me, it's not just about creating a product that's easy. It's about having that product show up in everything that we do. When we focus on our healthy Allscripts teams, we also create healthy physicians and care teams. When we want to help people get healthy out in the world, we can also look to our healthy product that's simple, focused, timely, and smart. You know, when I think about the platform of health, I really am very excited about the opportunity for prosperous hospitals to be able to get into the cloud, do something really modern that's going to help their physicians release the burden of physical strain, mental strain, and really emotional strain. This world that we are working with right now during COVID and what's going to happen post-COVID is going to be very different than the one we were in before. And the best thing we can do as healthcare IT folks is to be able to connect with each other and connect with the people that are using our products. So my question to you, my action item, is to start thinking about what your role is in supporting another. What is your role to help another grow? And what can we shift to be able to shift the healthcare industry for a better world? Finally, I see that we are in support of human experience. Our service and products here at Allscripts provide an exceptional experience to all humans, and we're here to create safe, useful, meaningful, and beautiful experiences. I want to thank everyone on this call for your attention and your time today. I know we are all extremely stretched, and it has been a true pleasure to be able to share our concepts and our ideas with you. I want to thank Molly and the entire team that has helped put this on the radar, and I also want to thank Beckers for the opportunity to share. Charlie, thank you for being my partner in this journey. At this time, I would really love to be able to answer questions that you might have.
Perfect. Thank you, Jenna. Thank you, Charlie, for that great presentation. So attendees, we will now begin today's question and answer session. You can submit any questions you have by typing them into the Q&A box you see on your webinar console. And thank you in advance for those questions. Charlie and Jenna, if you have comments so far, excuse me, so let me turn over and see the first question. That is, can you provide an example of how Allscripts uses human-centered design? Any storytelling or examples you could illustrate for attendees? Jenna, can I check in with you first on this one?
Sure, yeah, no problem. Thanks so much. That's a great question. So the human-centered design is falling into every part of it, right? So I can give an example of what we have been doing on a new mobile platform that we're releasing. In January, last January, it's hard to believe it's been a whole year, we started doing research out in the world. And we visited hospitals, and we didn't just visit hospitals to hold focus groups. We actually visited hospitals to do job shadowing. So we spent an awful lot of time with physicians in their world, in their spaces, to be able to understand what their pain points were and looking for those intrinsic needs. We had the opportunity to be able to come back and work with an extremely skilled group of developers and designers and take those ideas to fruition. So we are currently in the process of working on that product. And even after we have started to put that into productization, we're doing what we call co-creates with physicians, spending more time with more of our client partners, working with them to gain feedback all along the way. So this is actually it may be an Allscripts-led project, but it's a physician's created with them in tow and also co-created with folks that are doing the work on the floor. So we're not just speaking with executives at our partnerships, we're really engaged with the folks that are doing the hard work. So that's an example of how we're implementing human-centered design.
Wonderful. This next question is asking for some elaboration. You had said that human-centered design, it comes with 5 steps: scope setting, research, synthesis, ideation, and then rapid and iterative prototyping. This attendee would like to know, can you please elaborate on that research step in this process? What does that entail? What does that look like? Can you just expand and provide some more detail on that step?
Absolutely. So research is my first love. I'm a data person, so I really love to dig down into the details pretty deeply. And design research takes many forms. The very first thing we do is something called territory mapping. So we say, okay, well, we're brilliant people. What do we think, right? We're going to go out and dig through our minds and our archives about previous projects and just get it out there and get it out of our systems. And that helps us set scope for what direction we're going to do. So then what we also do, the next step, is something we call secondary research, which is a competitive analysis, not what marketing does. This is actually dovetailing with marketing. So marketing asks a whole bunch of questions to maybe marketing asks many questions, or one question to many people, one to many. And design takes a few people and digs down deep. So what we do is we go in and we do contextual inquiry after we're done with our competitive analysis on the usability side. And we also do job shadowing. So we spend days in hospitals with our personas that we're following and understand what those intrinsic needs are. That example that I used back in January is I was in hospitals for 24 hours a day for about 3 days apiece. So I got to see all different shifts, what happens in the hospital on a Friday night versus what happens in a hospital on a Wednesday night. How busy does it get? What are people's roles? How do they collaborate across? What does it mean to be on call? What does it mean to try and find a patient in a hospital if you're a brand new hospitalist? What does it mean to talk with your mentor? What does it mean to be in charge of 5 physicians? So very interesting. And that research piece really does dig into those details. And I think it doesn't do due diligence to just talk about research, but to say, now what do you do with all that data? We use a tool called Affinity Diagramming to take sometimes up to 1,000 little points of interest and group them so we understand what those key findings are. Those key findings are great because they become North Stars for our product, but they also become great communication tools internally throughout the team. So if I say here are 3 key findings of what we found out there in the world, then I can communicate that on the high level and strategically to business and to also to our designers or the engineers that are actually doing the product.
Terrific. Thank you, Jenna, for shedding more light on that important step of the process. A couple questions came in specific to the fixed and growth-minded cultures and mindsets. And those questions are, how do you support curiosity and the growth mindset within implementation teams? And then related to that, what have been the most effective tools or approaches for shifting the culture within the organization?
Sure, I can
Hi,
take
Charlie.
as well. Oh, go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I was going to comment a little bit on Allscripts has moved to a scaled agile framework, and I think that has really gone a long way in shifting the culture of our organization and really supporting a growth mindset, particularly in our PI planning events where all of the product managers, the engineers, and the product owners are all in the same room, or were virtually same room now with COVID, but everybody has a voice and nothing is off limits, and it really has allowed us to be much more collaborative and expressive when we're designing the solutions. And we are also incorporating our user experience team, Jenna's team, into that process. They're at the table with all of the rest. So I think that combination really has gone a long way in transforming our culture. And Jenna, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, and that's actually, I highly recommend that, yes. And Charlie, thanks so much for talking about the day-to-day, because I think that's extremely important. Like, what processes are you doing now, and then how do you start to shift them towards growth mindset? We're doing a lot of reading. We also set up a training using our internal curriculum folks to be able to set up a training that everybody's taking within HHS. We also have made a huge commitment at the senior leadership level to focus on this new way of being. So from my perspective, in companies like ours, it's really exciting to be able to have senior leadership do their own reading and get excited about a concept, and then be able to have that trickle down throughout the company. So, you know, you think about rain always flows down. So we're really doing that with this growth mindset concept.
Great, thank you both. A couple attendees would like to know what you are doing to help specific roles within the health system and in hospitals, starting with nurses. What are you doing to support nurses who spend more time in the EHR?
Yeah, so we have taken a persona approach to, we have analyzed several different personas. Nursing is one of them. We do a deep dive into the work that they're doing in the EHR. We, when we can, and prior to COVID, would go out to our client sites and shadow them, and are designing the EHR specifically for those personas. And nursing, although, you know, they are typically not, lately, I would say the CNOs are more at the table when making decisions around software purchases, and those, historically, though, it has been the physicians and providers, and they're the ones that typically get the most development effort. But we are definitely seeing a shift. Nurses are the most heaviest users of the EHR product, and I think as we are designing our solutions, we are really looking at that nursing persona. And last year at our ACE event, we were calling it the year of the nurse, and really focusing our solutions and the product around nursing workflows. And I know, Jenna, your team has done a lot of work on exploring the nursing personas.
Absolutely. So what's really exciting to me, and, you know, Charlie's using this concept of personas. So personas is a term that we use in human-centered design that basically characterizes an entire group of people. It could be based on personality, it could be based on role, and what we do is we go out into the world, we discover what their intrinsic needs are, we build one representation or one persona to be able to represent that group of people, and then we do a deep dive and try to create something for them. What's interesting to me is we are shifting our perspective from, you know, we talk all the time in this industry about workflows, and, you know, we want to make sure the workflow goes well, right? What is your workflow? And we are definitely doing that. Pre-COVID, that's exactly where we started, and we are also taking it one step further to look at the experience from the moment a human wakes up to the moment that person goes offline and goes to sleep. Because we all know in healthcare these jobs don't stop when you go home. And I think the nurse's perspective is very much like that. That nurse might go home and spend time with her family, but she always, or he always, or they always have in the back of their minds what's going to happen the next day. And we want to look at that entire experience of what it's like to be in the hospital, what it's like to be going to the hospital, what it's like to be collaborating with folks, what it's like to be helping a patient, and then finally, what happens after you go? You know, what does the handoff look like from one shift to the next? What do you look at when you first go to, or when you first get up, or when you go to sleep? And I think this is why mobile is so important to so many of us, so important for the digital transformation with Platform of Health, because now we can start looking at this as not harnessing people to their devices, but to help them feel well prepared and the no surprises ethic to be able to let down a little bit of that cognitive load, and also to provide just-in-time information, right? We want to make sure that they have the information they need at that moment in time and nothing more, because we know that cognitive burden is so heavy.
Thank you both. This next related question was specific to the physician persona, to use your word, Jenna. There is the general observation that over the years, EMRs have increased the burden on doctors and led to burnout. How is Allscripts addressing physician burnout using human provider-centric design?
Do you want to take that from a platform of health perspective, and then I'll hit it from the design perspective, Charlie?
Sure, yeah. So from a platform of health perspective, we are not only doing things, the simple things like reducing clicks and making sure that the workflows are intuitive within Sunrise, that color schemes are much more visually appealing. But we have recently, and Jenna can speak more to this, we have recently really doubled down on our physician workflows and making it completely mobile, and our focus first on the broadest group, which is hospitalists. So making it very kind of transforming anything that they would do on the desktop, making it completely mobile so that they do not have to go to the desktop, and it's the workflow is very seamless. We're really excited about what we're seeing with the prototypes that we're doing and being able to release that later this year. But that specifically is what we are doing today. With much more, we will expand into different physician groups as we evolve this hospitalist role. And Jenna and her team were the ones that really kind of spearheaded that effort and can kind of speak to that a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess where I get really excited about this cognitive load challenge is it really is a design constraint, right? So as a company, we are being forced to say, okay, to look at what needs to be fixed, to look at what is hard, and to make it easier. And as Charlie was talking about, reducing clicks, making sure, the data is there that they need just in time. I think there's also another level of this. So if we start to go, take a trip forward 10 years, what does that mean for healthcare IT? What does that mean for our digital transformation? When we go into the cloud, we are going to have a whole new host of opportunities there to reduce that cognitive load. Charlie talked about AI, and Amazon uses this every day. Google uses this on us every day. Whether we like it or not, or whether we know that it's happening or not, that's happening. Facebook, classic example, right? Everything that you do on Facebook is driven by a bot or driven by some other intelligence from an algorithm that somebody has written. And where I start to get excited about this is how do we take that and help reduce all of the noise that doctors are experiencing every day and put it into the background and allow them to do their job. A lot of doctors got into this because they wanted to be healers. And what we're hearing is that healing has been put aside so they can focus on data and focus on EMRs and focus on their technology in front of them. And what we really want to do is bring that focus back to the patient and help them become healers again. And that, to me, would not only reduce cognitive burden, but it's also going to help them breathe and get some sleep and take care of their families. If we can guide their decision-making, and I said guide, right? I did not say make decisions for them. But if we can guide them to be able to make those good decisions for their patients and really focus on the wellness and get them back into that mindset again, that's exciting to me.
I think your presentation was so interesting and really helpful because you hear the term human-centered design quite a bit, but I think to really define it for attendees and for myself as you did was really helpful. So we've had a couple questions come in about terminology. One is, let's see, just for a bit of reflection about some of the evolution of terminology here. This attendee wrote, a good number of healthcare organizations are slowly transitioning the use of patient-centered care to person-centered care. Why human-centered approach? Any reflections on that or parting thoughts that you would like to share with this attendee? Jenna, can I check in with you on this one?
Yeah, sure. And I'm sorry, I paused because I just wanted to give it some thought. So, you know, it's kind of interesting. And this is a belief structure of mine. So I truly believe that there are no patients. I believe there are people that need support, or humans that need support. Because really we have a healthy human inside of all of us. And that healthy human wants to claw her way out and claw through the illness. That's why we have immune systems to be able to help support us from the inside. But sometimes those, you know, crazy things happen. An arm gets broken, somebody gets a virus, and we need support. So from my perspective, I truly believe that moving from the word patient to the word person-centric is extremely important for our industry to start focusing on wellness. I believe the business is wellness, not taking care of sick people. And that's my response to that. This is hard when you're a presenter, because all I really want to do is have an open discussion, but that's sort of my thought on it. Person-centric is definitely better than patient-centric for that reason. Mm-hmm. Focus on wellness.
Mm. Terrific. I think that's really insightful. Thank you, Jenna. Another question related to terminology is whether human-centered design, the term, is that more focused on products versus services and process redesign?
So it got its start back in the 60s when they were trying to figure out how to engineer computer systems on the screen, you know, old school, like the printed tickets that you fed into a machine to get a program to work. Those were my predecessors at Carnegie Mellon. And they started looking at that just as a computer thing. But now there's a whole host of fields that are out there that are focused on human-centered design. We still use the same methodologies, but we apply it to a lot of other things. So architecture. So I do trauma-informed spaces for intellectual disability and domestic violence. I also design services. So, you know, if you look at human resources as a service to the rest of the company, we can actually help design that to make that better. So service design is another one. Transformational design. How do we take a company from one state and put it into another? Organizational design. What kind of changes would we make at an organizational level to be able to make things better for the people that are working there? You can also imagine you can design lots of different processes. So, you know, equity and inclusion and diversity. Wonderful spot to be able to use human-centered design methodologies and experiences. So what I start to, and this relates to the title, you know, experience officer. Like, we are creating experiences for each other. I create an experience for you. We're using this platform to be able to talk with one another. That's an experience. That's all been designed. And so it's no longer just about screens. And especially as we move into this new digital transformation over the next 10 years, we're going to see more and more of this happen, because it's not just what I'm typing into a screen anymore. It's what I hear. It's what I feel. It's what kind of sensors are in my room to be able to make my air clean, to be able to make sure that I remember to wash my hands with hand sanitizer before I leave the room. It's watching me walk into a room so I know I've entered a patient and I know where to go next. It's all of these Internet of Things concepts, AI, the new digital transformation platform of health, to be able to get us to that next level and really start to focus on each one of these spaces where we can provide not only just a better experience, but a delightful and joyful experience. Because don't we all need that at the end of the day? Like, don't we just need to be taken care of, feel safe, and have those moments of joy throughout our day to help us feel successful and help us be kind to one another? And when stress hits, and we all have it, it's even more of a reason to really take care of one another in that way. Long answer, sorry.
Well, Jen, I think that's a perfect place to conclude and a great thought to end on. So thank you, and thank you, Charlie, for such an excellent presentation today. And thank you to Allscripts for sponsoring today's webinar. That's all the time we have for today. To learn more about the content presented today, please check out the resources section on your webinar console and fill out that post-webinar survey. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope you have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.